All right, so get this. Ever wish you had a digital lab partner?
Yeah.
One that could not only keep all your experiments organized, but could whip up designs, maybe even order supplies for you.
Sounds pretty futuristic.
Right. Kind of like something kind of a sci-fi movie. But get this, it's real. It's called TeselaGen Starter Edition. And today we're going to we're diving deep into their brochure to see if it lives up to the hype.
And I'm ready to, break down the science behind all those sleek visuals.
Perfect. Because one thing that caught my eye right away was this phrase, cloud-based solution.
Mm-hmm.
And, I remember the days of wrestling with clunky software in the lab. Not fun. So for all of us who might have PTSD from those days, can you explain what this whole cloud-based thing actually means? For researchers, what difference does it make?
Well, think of it this way. No more being chained to, one specific computer in the lab, right?
Right.
With TeselaGen Starter Edition, you can, access your projects from anywhere, anytime, as long as you have an internet connection.
Oh, wow.
It's like having your entire lab bench in your pocket.
Okay, that's a game changer right there. Especially for collaborations, right? No more emailing files back and forth or trying to crowd around one screen.
Exactly.
But let's talk about what you actually do with this newfound freedom, right? The brochure makes a big deal about the plasmid and vector editor and visualizer.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, those visuals they're pretty slick.
They really are.
Yeah.
I mean, TeselaGen has taken something that used to be a really tedious, error-prone process, like drawing out these designs by hand, and turned it into something that feels almost like, using a graphic design program.
Which is brilliant because, let's be honest, we all know that time spent meticulously drawing plasmids is time not spent on, the actual research.
Exactly.
So it's visually intuitive, but can it handle the complex stuff?
That's the real question.
Yeah. The brochure mentions something called the powerful design editor, and it throws around these terms like Gibson, Golden Gate, and Mocklow. Sounds a little intimidating to a non-scientist like me, I'll be honest.
Well, those are just different methods for assembling DNA. Think of them like different construction techniques, right? You've got your hammers, your nails, your screws.
Sorry?
Now, imagine having TeselaGen as your, master builder. You tell it what you want to build, and it automatically figures out the best construction method, whether it's Gibson, Golden Gate, or Monclo, and spits out, optimized instructions.
Okay, now that's impressive. That's like having a super smart lab assistant who knows all the shortcuts. But what happens when you have all these, amazing designs and you need to find them again? I'm picturing a very disorganized digital lab notebook right about now.
Don't worry, TeselaGen has you covered there, too. Their online DNA and protein library is like having a searchable database for, your entire lab's collection.
Okay.
No more frantically searching through physical notebooks or trying to remember where you saved that one crucial file.
So no more where's Waldo with your plasmids?
Exactly.
That's a relief. It seems like organization is a big theme here.
Absolutely. And that's where the automatic protocol generation feature comes in.
Okay.
It might sound like a small thing, but trust me, this feature is a game changer.
Okay, tell me more. What makes this particular feature so special? I see it mentions calculating melting temperatures.
Right.
Help me out here. Why is that so important for researchers?
Okay, so imagine you're designing an experiment that involves a technique called PCR. It's like a molecular copy machine, right? It allows you to amplify specific DNA sequences. Now, the melting temperature is crucial for PCR because it dictates how well your primers, those little DNA sequences that target your gene of interest, how well they bind to the DNA you want to copy.
Okay.
Get the melting temperature wrong, and your PCR could fail, wasting precious time and resources.
So TeselaGen's taking care of all those tedious calculations behind the scenes so you can focus on the bigger picture of the experiment.
Exactly. It's like having a built-in calculator that, not only knows all the formulas, but also understands the context of your experiment.
Okay. That's seriously impressive. But, let's move on from the digital realm for a second, right? Because at some point you actually got to get your hands dirty in the lab.
Right. Got to go hands-on. Yeah.
So how does TeselaGen handle the whole, material management side of things?
Well, remember how we were just talking about organization being key?
Yeah.
TeselaGen's biological material management feature really takes that to a whole new level. Think of it as a digital twin of your physical lab inventory.
Okay.
Every tube, every plate, every single sample is accounted for, meticulously labeled and tracked.
So it's like having a super organized lab manager who never forgets where they put anything.
Exactly.
That's kind of like my system, because let's be honest, we've all had those moments of wait, Where did I put that sample? Panic.
Oh, yeah. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
And it actually goes beyond just keeping track of where things are.
Okay.
TeselaGen also helps you manage all the modifications and manipulations you do to your samples, so you have a complete history of every step in your experimental process.
Oh, wow.
Yep,
That's huge for reproducibility, which, is like the cornerstone of good science. If you can't replicate your own work, then, well, what was the point?
exactly. You got it. And don't forget the collaborative aspect.
Right. Of
With
course.
TeselaGen, everyone on your team can have access to the same, meticulously organized inventory, which minimizes confusion and makes sure everyone's on the same page.
And speaking of staying on top of things, let's talk about the BioShop integration.
Yes.
This sounds like it could be a lifesaver for anyone who's ever had to navigate the labyrinthine world of ordering lab supplies.
Oh, tell me about it.
So paint me a picture. What are we talking about here?
Okay, so imagine this, right?
Yeah.
You're in the middle of designing an experiment in TeselaGen, and you realize, oh, shoot, I need this very specific reagent.
Yep.
Instead of having to, switch over to a different website, create a whole new order, and then, manually input all the details,
Okay.
you can just order it directly through TeselaGen's integrated BioShop.
Okay, that is seriously convenient. But is it just about convenience? Or are there other benefits to this kind of, integrated ordering system?
Well, think about the potential for errors, right? When you're manually transferring information between different platforms.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the BioShop integration, you eliminate that risk because everything's linked directly to your TeselaGen account.
So it's not just about saving time, it's about reducing the risk of those costly mistakes, those little errors.
Exactly. And let's be real, those mistakes can really add up,
Oh, yeah.
both in terms of time and money, especially for labs that, might be operating on tight budgets.
Which brings me to my next point, right? This all sounds amazing, but is TeselaGen only accessible to big research institutions with, deep pockets?
That's a great question, and honestly, that's one of the things I find most exciting about this software.
Okay.
The brochure really makes a point of saying that they cater to a wide range of users from, academic labs and small startups to large biotech companies.
That's fantastic because, democratizing access to these kinds of tools, that's crucial for fostering innovation, right? After all, some of the most groundbreaking discoveries, they come from these unexpected places.
Exactly. And by making these tools more accessible, TeselaGen is essentially leveling the playing field, and it's opening up all these new possibilities for, scientific discovery.
And to further emphasize that point, the brochure features a quote from Sarah Richardson, CDO of Microbiome,
Mhm.
and she raves about, how user-friendly TeselaGen is and how responsive their team is.
Yeah. And I think that speaks volumes. Having a supportive team behind, what is a complex piece of software can make all the difference.
It's that human touch that can really make or break the user experience, especially when you're dealing with something as, I don't know, as intricate as biodesign software.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have all the bells and whistles,
Right.
but if you can't figure out how to use them, or if you're constantly, running into technical roadblocks, it's not going to be a pleasant experience.
And that's where those clean, intuitive visuals we talked about earlier, they come into play.
For sure.
Just looking at the brochure, you get a sense of how user-friendly the interface is.
Yeah, it's like they've taken a page from the world of consumer tech where, user experience is paramount. They've managed to make something that's inherently complex feel approachable and even elegant, I think.
I'm seriously impressed. This deep dive into TeselaGen Starter Edition has really opened my eyes to the power of these digital tools in transforming the landscape of biological research.
It's incredible to think how far we've come from the days of, hand-drawn plasmids and meticulously handwritten lab notebooks.
Oh yeah.
Tools like TeselaGen they're not only streamlining workflows, but they're fundamentally changing the way we approach scientific discovery.
And that brings us to the big question, right? With tools like TeselaGen becoming increasingly, sophisticated and accessible, what does the future hold for biological research?
Ooh, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, will we see an acceleration of breakthroughs as researchers are, freed from these tedious tasks and empowered to focus on the bigger picture? Will we see greater collaboration, more knowledge sharing across disciplines?
These are exciting times to be involved in the world of science, that's for sure. You know, it's funny, as we've been talking about all these amazing features,
Yeah.
I keep thinking back to that quote from Sarah Richardson.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing for us to sit here and, talk about how user-friendly TeselaGen is,
Right.
but actually hearing it from a scientist, like somebody who's using the software in their daily work,
Right.
that just adds a whole other level of, like, credibility, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. And, it speaks to something really crucial about like the design philosophy behind
Yeah.
TeselaGen. They haven't just created, a powerful tool. They've created a tool that people actually enjoy using.
Right.
And that's huge because when you enjoy using a tool, you're more likely to use it effectively, right?
Right.
You're more likely to, explore its full potential,
Mm.
and you're ultimately more likely to make, meaningful discoveries.
It's like the difference between, like, using a clunky old typewriter and a sleek new laptop.
Exactly.
They both get the job done,
Right.
but one is just infinitely more enjoyable to use.
Yes.
And speaking of enjoyable, can we just take a moment to appreciate the visuals in this brochure?
Yes.
I mean, I'm picturing like clean lines, intuitive icons, a color palette that doesn't make my eyes bleed. Am I close?
You're spot on. And it's not just about aesthetics, although I do appreciate a well-designed interface.
Yeah.
It's about making the complex feel accessible. When you look at the brochure, you immediately get a sense of how user-friendly the software is,
Yeah.
even if you've never seen it before.
Exactly. It's like they've managed to like distill the essence of, user-centered design
Hmm.
and inject it into the world of molecular biology, which is amazing
It is.
because it means we're moving away from the days of like these intimidating user-hostile software
Yes.
and towards a future where anyone, I mean, regardless of their, technical expertise, can harness the power of biodesign.
100%. I couldn't agree more. This is an exciting time to be a scientist, that's for sure. And tools like TeselaGen are really like paving the way for a new era of discovery,
Yeah.
one that's driven by collaboration, accessibility, and a passion for, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
So to wrap things up, for anyone listening who's feeling, inspired, maybe a little bit more curious about, exploring this world of digital biodesign, what's your advice? Like, where should they start?
Well, I'd say the TeselaGen Starter Edition brochure is a really excellent starting point.
Yeah.
It's not just a sales pitch, it's a glimpse into the future of biological research.
Okay.
And who knows, maybe exploring this tool will spark an idea, ignite a passion, or even, lead to a groundbreaking discovery.
Wise words. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into TeselaGen Starter Edition. Until next time, keep your minds curious, your experiments organized, and your eyes on the horizon of scientific progress.